Okay, so my name is Maria Helena Ariza. I am from Colombia, and I came to Southern Sudan to work for Nonviolent Peaceforce.
My name is Lea Krivchenia. I'm from the US, and I have been working for Nonviolent Peaceforce in a more administrative capacity and have just come to Southern Sudan to be an international civilian peacekeeper.
Great. Thank you, ladies. And can you tell me about, we've just finished the 10-day core mission preparedness training, and can you just share some reflections about your experience in this training?
All right. Well, I found the training very useful because, like, on the one hand, I learned about myself, and I learned about, for example, my listening skills and my abilities to communicate with people, to build relationships with people, and to be a team player. So those places of self-reflection and assessment, like, are indeed useful for my career with NP, but also for my personal life and for my career as a peace builder. As well, like, I found it a great learning opportunity again, and I found that it was a space to connect with the people that I am gonna be sharing my life with. And I was very inspired and very inspired by the stories I heard and how people chose to overcome their experiences of victimization and become an agent of change. So, like, the stories shared and actually information disseminated was highly transformative for me. Sorry.
Thank you. And Lea?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we did a lot of, like, really kind of useful skills training and really concrete practicing of the things that we're going to need, which was really helpful. You know, a lot of practicing of talking about NP in different ways, which is really difficult and really important for relationship building, and a lot of those really concrete things. The other thing that was really that I found really helpful was that all of these learning processes were taking place within the team, or the larger team that we will be doing the actual work with. So, I mean, I think one of the hardest things about this work is the fact that everything you do is in a team, everything you do is in a deeply multicultural team, and everything you do has to function within that. And so it's not an individual process in any way. And so to have, you know, it's one thing to say, I, you know, have this training and I have learned these skills, but I think this training in particular was really great about, like, that collective learning process, because it doesn't matter if I know this one thing or if Maria Elena knows how to do something else. The only thing that actually matters in the field is how your team can do that, and how your team can engage in those processes together and can construct plans and go on visits and respond to emergencies. I mean, everything that happens has to happen in that team environment. And so I think to start out from the training, doing that and, like, working with people from drastically different backgrounds and people who have drastically different skills and experiences, and figuring out how to make them complementary as opposed to clashing, I think that was really important for me.
Great. Thank you.
And specifically what Lea said, like, this is an extraordinarily diverse group. A lot of people come, like, with a master's degree and a lot of experience, and some others with certificates, and a lot of people come with a lot of experience in Southern Sudan, and a lot of people come from, like, only like exposure to theories of conflict transformation. And this was a space in which we could all contribute with whatever we had. And we could all build the team in which we will be serving the community in South Sudan, and build the team in which we're gonna interact with every day. And that's very important because it creates, like, a solid foundation for our lives as UCPs.
Great. And can you guys talk about maybe what some of the highlights of the training were for you?
All right. For me, the highlights of the trainings were indeed the simulations, because it was a space for us to apply all of these concepts that we've learned. And it was a place for us to to see what can be the daily life of a UCP, and what can be the stress and the nervousness and all these difficulties and details that come with this job. So it was a time for us to rehearse, right? What's our daily life gonna be like? And it was a space for us to, like, the value of it was that we could analyze after our simulation of what did we do well and what we needed to improve on.
Great.
So it was it was an opportunity of learning, and it was incredible. And I'm just hoping that the mistakes we did here are not mistakes that we're gonna do in the field, and that we can indeed cultivate and build on the things we did well here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo that. Actually, we did a few different smaller role plays and a couple of larger simulations that for me were the most useful thing. I mean, even just we did one simulation that was literally having meetings with people, and that even might have been more useful than the one that was more of a kind of crisis situation, because the vast majority of our time is about talking to people. And it sounds really simple when you say it like that, but going through the planning process, so sitting with the team to decide, well, what are the things that we really want to know from this person? What are the things that we want to share with this person? How are we going to do that? How do you interact with military, with local government, with people who are going to be very receptive to you immediately, and people who are not going to be very receptive to you immediately? And to really actually, it's one thing to talk about how to do that, but to actually practice doing that and saying something and then realizing, oh, okay, that maybe wasn't the best thing to say, or saying something and saying, okay, that person really liked that, right? Like, that really got us to a place that we needed to get to. And then coming back together as a team, talking about what we learned, analyzing that information, and then using that to create plans. I think, to me, that was the most helpful practice.
Great. And how about, what were the biggest challenges?
Well, for me, the biggest challenge arose in talking about NP. So, and as people that, a lot of people did not have a lot of exposure to the nuances of all the principles under which NP operates. So the challenge for me, and that became actually the biggest learning opportunity for me, was on how to present NP and what specific areas of its mission and strategies to present to specific stakeholders, for that to become like an immediate bridge and for you to begin to build a relationship with that actor. So that for me was what I found the most challenging in all these processes and in all this simulations specifically.
Lea?
Yeah, that talking about NP, I agree, one of the most difficult things. And again, I think one of the most challenging things, but also one of the most productive things was for me learning how to work in this kind of a team, and especially being new to a country, being new to a culture, to a context, to a language situation, to a way of talking about things. At first, it's always it is very challenging to figure out how to make myself understood and how to really understand people and what they're saying. And so when you have a very international and very diverse group of internationals, and then also a large group of national staff who themselves are very diverse for all of the differences within Southern Sudan, and coming together with a common goal. So I think that again is one of the things that was and will be the most ultimately productive, but it's very challenging, especially at the beginning, to come together and sit, and say, well, this is what I'm saying, and how do I say that in a way that is understandable? And when I'm listening to you, how do I listen to what you're saying in a way that I really understand what it is you're trying to say? And it's just like a daily challenge, and you have to be willing to be patient to re-explain things, to ask questions, as well as to be, I think, vulnerable in a way to saying, you know, well, tell me how I need to do that better. You know, like, can you help me with this? Is like, if this is not clear to me, like, how can I do that better? And because being able to trust the people you work with in this kind of work is very important, and you have to do that through talking through all of this stuff. You know, you can't just let it go. And so putting yourself in a place where you can do that in a way that keeps the relationship going and keeps the work effective, I think is challenging, but ultimately is really fulfilling.
And actually, we had the opportunity of building a team because we had the chance to listen to each other's life stories, and in that way we identified our common humanity, which built bridges between us, because there's a lot of power dynamics within the groups. There's a lot of different learning styles. There's a lot of differences in the backgrounds of the education system. Some people being like more analytic, and some people being more like close like to concepts and navigating the world of the concrete situation. So I think that the training provided the opportunity to make our relationship strong and horizontal, which is a big challenge in multicultural settings.
Yeah, and also just to add to that, to be doing that, right, that I think a lot of times people think about, you know, there's team building and then there's the work, but to treat those really as the same thing, you know, is the really important thing. And to be able to do that in a training, so we're all going through this learning process, and it is in fact going through that learning process is the thing that builds the team, as well as vice versa, that building the team is another key part of the learning process. And so thinking about those things together, like from the very beginning, I mean, literally 48 hours after we stepped off the airplane into this country, I think will be a huge help in doing the work in these teams and being able to kind of think about those things together the whole way, because you can't separate them.
And how has it been? We've been at a very remote location with no power and no water and no mobile phone signal, and how has that experience been for you?
Well, it has been very challenging, I'm not gonna lie, because we're used to the comforts of our lives, right? But it has indeed, and I'm not joking, like, it has indeed made me a more patient person, and it has indeed helped me be detached from all of the things that we're used to, and it has indeed provided us more space to bond with each other, because it even gives us the opportunity, well, to talk and to complain, but also when there's like lack of technology, our free time is spent with each other, and our free time is spent talking and knowing each other. So it has been a process that, yes, it has been challenging and rough, but it has been an opportunity for us to work with ourselves, for us to become a little bit more zen, and for us to build a team.
Yeah, I would totally agree with everything, and I think that particularly for those of us who come from places where the kind of basic environment is quite different, I think it's really important, because you can't separate the work from the environment that you're doing the work in. And so if you say, well, I really want to do unarmed civilian peacekeeping, but, you know, I really want there to be power, well, that might be true in some places, yeah, right? But like we don't have control over that. So I think that it's really good to get into that mindset and to realize the challenges that you will have. So in the simulation, for example, there's no phone signal here. So we, you know, did text messages through paper, and you might be in an emergency situation where there's no phone signal. And so you need to be able to deal with those things in your daily life as well. And I totally agree with it provides a much more, an easier space for bonding, as well as some different kinds of skill sharing. Yeah. We learned how to bathe in the river. We learned how to wash clothes in the river, and how to wash our shoes and our feet, and all of these new life skills that we may have not had the opportunity to have in other places.
and it gives you an opportunity for emotional growth, as I said, because it helps you put things into perspective. Probably in our lives we tend to complain a lot about little things. And this, well, for me, it gave me an opportunity to know that a bug is not a big deal. Right?
Usually
it's not as big of a deal as the challenges that we're gonna face in this job.
Yeah, and to be able to not compartmentalize, but to manage those different things, and to think about, what is the point at which this is important, and what is the point at which this is important, and how do you balance that to be able to build an actual life, right? So yeah, I thought it was a great experience.
Yeah.